Welcome everyone to today's webinar, What If Everything You Know About DISC Training is Wrong? I am your host, Rick Kaufman, and with us today we have Merrick Rosenberg. Now before I introduce Merrick, I want to invite you all to ask questions throughout the webinar today by clicking the Q&A button below and typing in your question. We will answer as many questions as we possibly can at the end of the webinar today, so don't forget to just add those as we go all the way throughout. So why don't we get started? We have with us today Merrick Rosenberg. Merrick co-founded Team Builders Plus in 1991 and Take Flight Learning in 2012. He is the author of Taking Flight and The Chameleon, and he has reinvented completely how people learn about themselves and the people in their lives. His work with the personality styles has led him to be recognized as the CEO of the Year for the state of New Jersey, while his company, Take Flight Learning, has been selected as the New Jersey Business of the Year. His organization has repeatedly been named one of the fastest growing companies and best places to work in the Philadelphia area, and Merrick has worked with more than half of the Fortune 100 companies in the US and around the world. Welcome, Merrick.
Thank you, Rick.
It's great to have you here. So why don't we get started? And you know, the title of our webinar today is interesting. What if everything you know about DISC training is wrong? Why don't you help us a little bit with where that title came from and what we're gonna, give us an overview of what we're gonna learn today.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'll just give you a sense of the industry itself. You know, the DISC world, the personality styles world is growing exponentially. It was a study by Human Capital Media. They said employee personality assessments represent a $500 million a year business. We're talking $500 million, and it's growing around 10 to 15% a year. I would actually discount the 10 to 15% and say it's probably even more than that it's probably much higher. And part of the reason is that, you know, what's happened over the years, you have the baby boomers are leaving leaving organizations at a massive rate, and they've all taken different assessments and they're taking that knowledge with them. And as the new generations are coming in, well, they just haven't done it yet. And so what we're finding is organizations are investing in their people, and they're investing in teaching them about themselves. We all know the most self-aware people are the most successful people. So this is one way of teaching people about themselves and how they interact with others. So companies are spending a lot of money on training their people. And look, at $500 million, that's not the training world. That's the assessment world. The assessments are a sliver of the training dollar cost. Mm-hmm. So if you think about how big that world is, it's growing exponentially.
Wow, fantastic. You know, I know you've got kind of a sense of what DISC training has typically been, and I know that we're going to talk today about kind of the old paradigm and the new paradigm. I know we have a video here. Why don't we jump into that here and
Sure.
show us a little bit about what you're talking about?
So I spoke at an event. It was about 450 people. And I had asked them some questions, and I thought, you know, it would be nice to actually show you so you can actually see the audience response to these questions. So I pulled out a little snippet of the video. So let's do it. Tune in, and I'll show you. Let's see what you think. All right.
First, I'd like to get a show of hands. How many of you have participated in some type of personality styles training in your organization? All right, almost everybody. Beautiful. So, you know what that tells me? It means it must be infused into your culture, embedded into the cultural DNA. I have a feeling it's part of managers, how they delegate, salespeople, how they sell, customer service reps, how they talk to customers. Raise your hand if that's true. Wait a second here. I'm not seeing a lot of hands here. This is the problem, isn't it? We're taking people, we're teaching them about personality styles, but it's just not sticking.
So here's the question, you know, is that true for you? I mean, think about your own organization. Mm-hmm. Have you used some type of personality assessment in your organization? And if so, is it truly a part of your culture? And universally, as I travel around the country, you know, I've spoken in 47 states. Yeah. It's so rare that I find anyone who says to me, oh, absolutely, we use it all the time. And people often take assessments and they kind of get put into the bottom drawer and they don't get used again. So
yeah, when you asked that question in the video, I didn't see a single hand go up.
Not a single one. I see that all the time. And so the question is, why is that? I mean, we're going through training. People are spending time and money and energy. Why is that it's not sticking? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to show you why it's not sticking, and we're going to have to throw out a lot of old paradigms to rebuild it and try something completely new.
Excellent. That sounds like a great way to go. Why don't we start there then? Let's start with what DISC has always been, and why isn't it traditionally sticking?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously it's letters. I mean, of course, DISC, if you're talking about DISC or any type of system, that whether it's Myers-Briggs, if it's MBTI, you got ENFJ, INTP, you got all these letters. It could be colors, but there's obviously some set of symbols, which is usually letters that we use to explain the styles. So you've got to learn them. Of course, there's a graph. You've got to learn about your graph and your style. So you're going to get a graph. Obviously, it's a model, and we're going to spend a good amount of time learning the model. Of course we are. How else can you apply this?
Right.
And of course, there's reports, and you're going to get a report and probably spend a good amount of time in there as well. But the problem is, I would say to you that this is the old paradigm, that it's not about letters. It is not about graphs. It is not about models. It is not about reports. This is why it's just not sticking, that we think it's about this framework, but it's not about the framework at all. And we have to kind of get rid of that old thinking. And so let's replace it with something new.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So of course, self-awareness. I said it a moment ago, those individuals who have a high level of self-awareness are successful. We see this with emotional intelligence. In fact, this is the skill set of emotional intelligence. I mean, if you think what EQ is, it's self-awareness and social awareness, right? If you understand yourself, okay, you get a report. Social awareness, can you read other people? And self-regulation, can you manage your behaviors and your emotions? And social adaptation, can you adapt your behaviors to others? Well, what is DISC? It's not just self-awareness. And the problem is that overwhelmingly, DISC is taught as entirely self-awareness. And so what we need to do is we need to go beyond that and start thinking of DISC not just about learning about yourself. Of course, that's a part of it, but it has to be about application. So how can we embed the styles into everyday behaviors that people are using literally every single day? Personality plays out in everything we do. So how can we wire ourselves for this new skill set? And so it has to be about application. And then finally, it actually really has to go beyond that. And I will tell you that for many, many years, I've spoken to more than 100,000 people in the classroom and at speaking events about the styles. And I can tell you that overwhelmingly, it's really about learning about yourself, learning about your graph. And it's not about culture change and how can we embed this into the corporate DNA. That overwhelmingly, DISC training is a one-off. It is my team's going through it, this department's going through it, these managers are going through it, and that is it. It is one and done, it's over. And that's a problem because the goal is to infuse the language into the culture so that it becomes the language of the culture. So, I mean, if you were to ask a CEO that you're rolling out safety training, that CEO would not say, oh, we're rolling out safety training because we're looking at specific safety skills. Like that's what the participants say. The CEO says, we want to create a safe culture for our people. They have a bigger perspective, and that's what's happening here too. It's not just about learning the styles and the graphs and the models and the letters. It's about cultural change. Can you embed this into the culture so that you use it for hiring? You use it for forming teams. Leaders use it to delegate and motivate. Sales folks use it to sell. Customer service reps are using it every day. If you're in a hospital, nurses are using it with the patients. Administration's using it with the staff. I mean, it's used in every single thing you do. That's what cultural change is. But taught the old way, it's an event, it's not a process, it's a one and done, and it's over. So we have to fundamentally rethink how we teach it. Makes sense.
Sounds like we're going a number of steps further than traditional DISC training. And, I know with your nickname as the Birdman, which we've often heard, why don't we jump into what you've done? Because I know that, the way that we take it a few steps further is interesting, but let's start with the birds and look at how you've reinvented that.
Well, first of all, the letters have to go. I just can't tell you. I mean, I've probably heard this 1,000 times in my life where someone said to me, "Oh, I've taken the disc. I did that a few years ago," and I took the disc, as if like I did that,
Right.
Like as if it's a one and done thing. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, I did Myers-Briggs. Like, okay, you did it once, and that was it.
That was it. Right.
And I'm a D. Wait, which is that? What's that stand for? What's that again? And it just goes away. I'm in Myers-Briggs. I'm the E. N, wait, what's the N again?
Right.
And it's just gone. Those letters have to go, and I'm going to show you why. So what I did in my books in Taking Flight and then in the Chameleon is I got rid of the letters. And by the way, I'm not picking on the disc people, because this is something I think we've talked a lot about. This. People do not understand. And I'll ask our listeners this question: who owns disc? Who do you think owns disc? Now, most people don't really know.
Right.
And if you don't know, there's a good reason you don't know. Nobody owns disc. Disc was created. It was in a book. It was a model in a book by William Marston in 1928. The book was called The Emotions of Normal People, basically saying, we're all dysfunctional and have an acceptable level of dysfunction, and that's normal, and that the disc applies to you.
Right.
But no one ever copyrighted anything with it or trademarked with it. There are many versions of the disc profile, just like there's one version of Myers-Briggs, but there are many versions of disc assessments. Some are very valid, some are not. But there is no the disc profile. There are no the disc people. So just to be clear, I'm not picking on the disc people. There are no disc people.
Good to know, right?
So I got rid of the letters because, quite frankly, they weren't sticking, and I'm going to show you why. So what we did was I replaced them with 4 birds. So here's what I'm going to do. If you want to we can throw this into the chat if you'd like. We'll have a little interactive fun here. When you think of someone who has the traits of an eagle, so picture a person who has the characteristics of an eagle, what would you say their characteristics are? What do you think somebody with an eagle style is like? So let's see, throw them out there. Let's see what you think. So let's see if you have some thoughts as to what a person with an eagle would be like, right? Now, my guess is you're probably thinking words like direct, risk taker.
I'm thinking confident,
right? Driven, goal oriented.
Right.
They're all about results, right? And so this is the thing, right? I don't have to tell you that. You know that this is what the eagle is all about. They're results oriented, bottom line, direct and decisive. And here's the cool part. If it's intuitive today, it will always be intuitive. In other words, if I say to you, what are the characteristics of a parrot? Here, if you want to throw some in there, think of just some of the words that we think of when we hear a parrot. And if you were thinking of words like optimistic, they're talkative, they're chatty, social, enthusiastic, motivational, upbeat, fun. Look, that's the energy of a parrot.
For sure.
I mean, the crazy thing is you don't have to memorize this. In fact, as a trainer, I don't even need to teach it to you. I can pull it right from the participants as I'm doing now.
Yeah, very intuitive.
Yeah, and that's the key. If it's intuitive now, it'll always be intuitive. The next one, if you want to put some words in there for the dove style, think about what words that come to mind when you're thinking of a dove. All right, you think of words like caring and compassionate and helpful and harmonious.
And peaceful, the peacekeepers.
Oh,
right?
yeah, calm and calming, right? But you already know that, and that's what I'm talking about. And our last one, I'm going to be psychic here. I'm going to tell you what is the first word that comes to mind when you think of an owl. And what do you think most people came up with?
I'm thinking wise.
Wise or wisdom. And that's the thing, is that you don't have to, and I'm not saying the owl's the smart one, but what I would say is that the owl, we think of owls, every cartoon owl who has ever been drawn is pictured as wise.
Right.
And they're logical, analytical, detailed. If they're going to do something, they're going to do it, and it's going to be right. And you can see, like, on the left side are eagles and owls, more task-oriented. On the right, more people-oriented. On the top are eagles and parrots, fast-paced, verbal, and things have to be moving. On the bottom, doves and owls, just more harmonious. They're more even, steady-paced, and just a little more quiet. So here's the thing. Let's look at why we got rid of the letters and why we replaced them with something more visual.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, here's the ultimate irony. I think this actually kind of cracks me up, is that So we pulled the words out of the letters to form an acronym
Right.
to make it easy to remember.
Right.
But when you pull the words out of the letters,
They mean even less.
they mean even less. You don't even remember what they mean.
Right.
And so people, quite frankly, forget what the letters mean.
Right.
You know, think about the Myers-Briggs. How many people, unless you teach this all the time, what does the N stand for? What does the P stand for?
idea.
People just don't remember.
Right.
And that's true with DISC. And, you know, interestingly, you may think you know what the letter, how about S? What does the letter S stand for? Now, if you just said the word steadiness, maybe, but there's no consensus on that. When William Marston created the DISC model in 1928, S stood for submission. So we've all changed that word. Some people use steadiness. I use supportiveness.
Right.
Some, you know, how about the C? I mean, okay, does it mean conscientious? Maybe, but what William Marston, he used the word compliance. I was inducement.
Right.
The words we're using for DISC, we're making up because we didn't like what he used back then.
Well, and it just seems like the birds are so much, they embody so much more than a letter anyway.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the thing, is that when you picture, and I couldn't say to you, okay, give me the characteristics of a D, but if I say, talk to me about an eagle, it gives you a whole range of behaviors that associate with it. And as you can see, that people forget it, they don't apply it, and they just don't get embedded into the culture itself.
Right.
So the difference with the birds is that the birds are what are called a mnemonic. A mnemonic is a memory aid. It would be like taking your left hand, putting your fingers together and putting your thumb sticking out. And you look at that and you say, well, there's an L. Oh, that's my left hand. It's a memory device that's always with you.
Yep.
You got it, right? You got it. And it's going to tell you that's your left hand. And so the birds embody the meaning of each style. Not only does it take little time to teach the model, but we're visual. We're visual learners. You saw the other day, I did a TV interview on NBC, and I taught the host the birds. I had a 5-minute interview, and I taught the host the birds in 30 seconds, and she used them the rest of the interview.
They were immediately in her mind.
You could have, and if you want to tune into that, actually, it's a talk that I did. You're welcome to, if you link in with me, you can watch that interview. And here's the thing, that she, not only did she learn the birds within seconds, but she was using them the entire time. I mean, how simple is that?
Right.
You could never have done that with letters.
No.
She would have never remembered, wait, which one's the D, which is the I.
Sure.
And I'll tell you, there's nothing like going into an organization and seeing we have these 6-inch desktop birds, seeing it sitting on a desk. And people it's just part of their culture. And we have some companies, there's hundreds of them, and they're everywhere on every single desk in the company.
What a great way to keep it alive.
Right. Walk into an office and see an eagle staring at you. It tells you something very different than if a dove is staring back at you.
So this is like the beginning of what makes people actually use this program.
Right. It becomes a part of the culture because it becomes a visual symbol in the culture. But this is only part of it.
Yeah.
This is just step one. There's going to be a variety of things we're going to change here.
Excellent. Well, and you know what, this reminds me that it sounds like the program that you run is very different than kind of the traditional DISC agenda, right?
Very different.
Which is mostly about a report. So I'm thinking, I don't know, walk us through what it used to be and kind of how you've redone that.
Yeah, let's see. In fact, if this is your DISC training experience, okay?
Yep.
So starts off something like this. There's no good style. There's no bad style. You can't pass or fail a behavioral profile. Sometimes you're different at home than you are at work. You're not just one style. You're a combination of all styles. You need all the styles. Sometimes you're different in one setting than a different setting.
Right.
Sometimes your style changes over time. I love asking that to a big audience, and I say, raise your hand if that's your DISC training experience, and every hand
goes up, right?
Then I say, all right, well, then we got to teach you. Maybe we'll do a little history, a little DISC style basics, give you a little background. Where's this stuff come from? We hand out the reports. Now you got to read your style, read about your graph, and you may even spend a good amount of time in your report because it's about a report. It's about your graph. Then we spend some time on the D, and then some time on the I, and some time on the S, and some time on the C. And then we summarize our learning and create an action plan, and voila.
Wow.
DISC training. So the reality is that is how most people learn how to do DISC training. And I can tell you why. It's because most DISC training or certifications are led by DISC publishers who make their own version of a DISC assessment. They are psychometricians who design valid and reliable assessment tools, and they're very good at that. The problem is they're not trainers, and so they don't know how to bring it to life, and they even know it. And in fact, many of these DISC publishers, what they say is, look, we're not going to tell you how you have to use our assessment.
Mm-hmm.
We are free to
Right.
use it however you like.
Right.
Okay, let me translate that. Figure it out.
Right. I don't know what to do.
Make your own PowerPoint, make
Right.
your own workbook, figure it out.
Wow.
So for
Yeah.
me, my first company was Team Builders Plus. It was a team building company. I started in 1991. And if you think back to 1991, there were almost no team building companies.
Mm-hmm.
There were literally a handful you could count on two hands in the entire United States. So for me, when I think about training, it has to be fun. I mean, I came from team building, not from a psychometrician background.
Right.
And for me, it has to be fun and engaging and interactive and brain friendly, which I'm going to show you in a sec. And so we designed the DISC training to be just that, something that people go to and they say, that was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in a classroom.
Very different than DISC.
Yeah, certified trainers will say that is the most fun program I've
Wow.
ever gotten to experience, and I wish they could facilitate it more and more.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And the reason is, when we designed this training and the certifications, if we certify trainers or if we deliver it, we made it so fun and interactive that people are just going to have a blast doing it. When you're laughing and you're enjoying yourself, you're also open to learning. So let me walk you through and show you why we need to shift. We need to make this brain friendly, right? So let's talk about that. So let's talk about what happens with the old model of DISC training. What I just described is basically what is happening in the brain is as follows. It's as if you took an empty folder out of your brain, or maybe one for the D, one for the I, one for the S, one for the C. We fill it with DISC style wisdom or personality styles wisdom. And it's fascinating, right? So interesting.
Sure.
And then we put it back in our brain, but that folder never gets opened. It's like reading a book once and then filing it back in your bookcase, and you never go back to the bookcase. In fact, you have to even look for it on the bookcase to try to figure out where it even is.
Right.
You just aren't using it because that folder in your brain has no neural network built around it. That there's no way for your brain to open it. That those DISC behaviors are not wired to new skills. So your brain doesn't open it. In fact, the only time that you open up that folder is when somebody says, hey, have you ever done the DISC profile? Oh yes, wait, I have a folder in my brain. Let me open it up. And you go, yes, I am a D. Wait, which one is that again?
I don't know what that means, but
right. And so here's the problem. DISC knowledge, when you teach a model and letters and reports, that knowledge is disconnected from real world behavior. So you're not wiring yourself for new skills. You're just cognitively learning a model. Cognitive learning doesn't translate to new behaviors. So learning must create new files that the brain learners must create new files that the brain is not accustomed to opening. I should say is accustomed to opening, right? So basically what happens here is that when you put this information into a new folder, the brain doesn't know how to open that folder. Right. It doesn't even know where the folder is. So we need to open up existing folders. And I'll show you that in a moment. That weak neural connections to the styles eventually fade. Because if you don't use it or lose it. Right. And DISC insights only are accessed during DISC conversations. You're actually talking about the model.
Right.
So let's do something different.
Yep.
So here's really where, and here's where we're going to transform what we're doing here. So instead of teaching models and letters and graphs, what we're going to do is not take out a new folder to fill it with information about the model, but what we're going to do is we're going to take existing folders that your brain opens all the time. Now, in a training program, these folders could be how you communicate, how you listen, how you delegate, how you give feedback, how you manage time, manage stress, manage conflict, how you take risks. We have behaviors that are kind of our standard go-to behaviors. When I write an email, there is a way I tend to write an email. I have a folder for that. When I give feedback, there's a way I give feedback. There's a folder for that. What we need to do is take out the existing folders we have, wire them for the 4 styles, then put the folders back. In neuroscience, there's an expression, neurons that wire together, fire together. Basically, what wires together, fires together. Right. If you wire the 4 birds into our existing skill set, what's going to happen is those behaviors are going to trigger all the time. Whenever you're communicating, the DISC styles trigger simultaneously. It is brain friendly. So
that's great.
So let's do it.
Yeah. So give us some examples. What are some of the topics that you cover in the program, and how does that work?
Sure. So let's take communication. Obviously, this is a key to being an effective employee in our lives. If we're poor communicators, it's going to have an impact.
Sure.
So some people are more big picture. Some people are more detail oriented. Let's just look at that for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Big picture out of the four birds? What does your gut say?
Well, I'd say the eagles, right? They fly high. They kind of take it all in at 30,000 feet, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And who else does? They don't care.
Well, parrots,
Yeah.
right?
Just tell me what I need to know.
Not about the details.
Just
right?
do it.
Right.
You can probably guess the owls are at the other end.
I would say very highly detailed. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, for the owl, I had this moment recently. My style was a parrot. My wife is an owl, and I was driving somewhere, and I had a meeting that I had to head to, and she said, "So where are you off to today?" And I told her, and she said, "Well, where is that? I have no idea where you're going." And tried to describe it to her, and she was like, "Well, how far is it?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to guess 2 hours. Yeah, probably 2 hours." I said, "Hold on one second." Reached in my pocket. I took out my phone. I opened up maps. I typed it in, and I'm very proud of myself as a parrot. Hour 59.
Wow.
Right?
Excellent.
Like, yeah, and she looks at me and says, "So you're wrong." Right?
And that's an owl for you.
Welcome
right?
to the world of the
Wow.
owl. And so, because the owl is very detail oriented, right? And
Yeah.
doves also do want a good amount of information, but maybe not as much as the dove. They want to feel safe.
Interesting.
So here's what happens. So let me give you a real life example of how this plays out and how we're wiring people for the skill set. So I had somebody who came up to me during a break at an event I was speaking at, and she said, "This is perfect timing. I am in a couple weeks." She's getting flown across the country, Fortune 500 firm organization, and she's going to meet the CEO. And she has 30 minutes. She was given a 30-minute time slot, not a second more.
Wow.
And her team has been working on what they think could actually be a new product, something that could be big. They think it's very innovative, something that could really grow the organization. And she gets to present it to the CEO. And no pressure, right?
No.
her team is counting on her.
Right.
So she said, "Is there anything you can tell me from a style perspective that could be helpful?" And I said, "Well, let me see your graph." I look at her graph, and okay, yes, we use reports. I need to understand her style. So yes, she's a very strong owl, very detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked her a series of questions. So Rick, you can kind of stand in for her and see if you can answer how she answered these questions.
All right.
Ready? She's an owl, so put your owl hat on. I said to her, "Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?"
Oh my God. Of course I do.
Right? Do you have a lot of charts and graphs and statistics?
Tons.
Timelines, milestones, thought processes, goals.
Check.
Exactly, right? So you may be able to also guess what I told her she's going to have to do with her PowerPoint presentation.
Let's get rid of it.
Right. Now, I didn't quite say throw it away, but what I did say was, I said, "Look, here I forgot to mention that her CEO is an off-the-scale eagle."
Oh, okay.
Right. Because here's the deal: the CEO she describes the CEO as an off-the-scale eagle.
Wow.
So and of course, if you've got an off-the-scale eagle, that is way too much information.
Sure.
And so I didn't tell her to trash it, but what I did say was, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that PowerPoint presentation, and whatever is your last slide, that's what I want you to start with." Because she's talking to an eagle CEO who she characterizes as off the scale eagle.
Wow.
And the problem is that eagles start with the bottom line and then give me the backup data.
Mm-hmm.
Owls start with the logic and work their way up to the conclusion. Both of those are fine, but she's an owl presenting to an eagle. And whose style is she most likely to present in?
Her own.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And so the challenge is, and that's one of the core themes, is that we tend to communicate in our own style and treat people how we like to be treated.
Right.
So what I needed her to understand was she needed, in a sense, to wire her communication style to the four birds and then think about, who am I talking to? I need to make sure I'm not imposing my style on him. And I need to communicate to him the way he needs that information.
Wow, really valuable. That's
Right.
great. Yep.
Right.
Fantastic. So what else?
So let's take another one.
Yeah.
How about let's take delegation. Look, everybody on this webinar, you either delegate work or get work delegated to you, and in many cases both. So this is something we all experience from one perspective of the other.
Absolutely.
So let's imagine this. I'm a parrot, which I happen to be a parrot. How about you can be this owl again for a moment?
Okay.
And I'm going to delegate work to you. Basically, what I'm about to do is take the delegation folder out of your brain, wire it for the 4 birds, and then put it back. Okay, so let's do it. So I'm going to delegate, I'm a parrot, I'm going to delegate a project to you. Now, anyone tuning in, I love asking this question in a training program. I turn to the parrots, we usually group them by table, and I'll turn to the parrot table and I'll say, all right, parrots, how amazing is this project? Right? Like,
and they're like, awesome.
Maybe the best. Yeah, it could be the best, maybe the best ever. So I'm going to delegate this project to an owl, but I don't know the styles. I'm me being me. You know, I'm going to delegate how I naturally delegate. Right. So I walk up to you and I say, I have a project for you. It is new. It is different. Here's your goal. Here's when I need it. Any questions?
As an owl, I have questions.
You know what? I got to tell you something. I believe in you. And then I reaffirm my belief in you, and then I'm off.
It doesn't help.
Right? So I turn to the parrot table at this point, and I love asking them, and I say, parrots, how did I do? And of course, from a parrot perspective, right, how was that?
Well, great.
Right. Because you know what, I got to tell you, I've been reading books about motivating and empowering people. Nailed it. I'm completely doing it.
Yeah.
But for an owl, they want structure. Owls and doves tend to want structure. Parrots and eagles tend to want freedom. Give me the goal. Let me do it. Let me run with it. I'll take it. I'll go.
Yeah. As an owl, I didn't really know what you wanted me to do. I need timelines and maybe a spreadsheet even.
Right. So in fact, if you were delegating to me, you'd probably give that to me, right? Here's the process. Here's the framework. Look, I made a spreadsheet. Here you go.
I'll tell you exactly what I need and when I need it.
Right. But as a parrot, I'm like micromanager.
Yeah.
Like, well, why don't you trust me? Why do you feel like you need to give that information?
That's good insight. Yeah.
So what we're doing is really wiring a skill set. Notice now, this is very different than teaching the DISC styles. What we're doing is taking skills and showing how the styles play out within those skills. So this is a big part of, for me, when we conduct training, that it's about wiring people for the styles that is brain friendly, based more on the skill set than it is about teaching a model that just gets filed away.
Right.
So let's do another one. Yeah. So how about this? Let's say you have done such an amazing job on this project. And so I want to, come and give you feedback. So here's the interesting thing. I'm most likely to give feedback in, of course, my own style.
Okay.
And so I'm going to impose my style on you. And if I give you feedback in a style that doesn't resonate with you, it literally feels as though you did not get feedback at all. So let me show you. So I'm a parrot. You did a great job. You're an owl. I'm going to give you feedback. So I walk up to you and I say, you were amazing. Great energy, effort, passion, enthusiasm. Just knocked it out of the park. Great job. Keep up the great work. Now, for those of you who are parrots and tuning in, how do you think I did?
Right? That sounded great.
Right.
Sure.
In fact, for the parrot, it's like rewind, play, rewind, play. They're thinking about it over and over on the way home because, wow, that was awesome.
Right.
But as an owl, if any of the owls tuning in, did that even count as feedback for you?
No.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Literally didn't even count.
I don't really know what I did well.
Right.
I would want to know specifically if I were an owl.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for the owls, if I'm giving you feedback, I need to give you the detail and the specifics. But if I overwhelm the parrot with details, and I'll say, first of all, I'd like to point out when you did this, this, and this, I thought that was very beneficial. Now, as you walked through the process, a few things I wanted to highlight. In fact, I took some notes I'd like to walk you through. For the parrot, they'd be like, but do you like it? Right? Because it doesn't have the energy.
Right.
How about this for a dove, just to show you how different each of the 4 styles are in giving feedback. So let's say I give feedback to a dove and I walk up to them and I simply say, I want to thank you for what you did on that project. Not only did you make a difference for the team, but you made a difference for the customer. And I really appreciate that. Right? For a dove.
Oh, that's awesome.
You get a hug for that.
Sure.
Right?
Well, the word appreciation, I think, really hits home with the doves. That's very sincere.
Yeah. And that's what it needs to be. Yeah. And let's how about an eagle? What do eagles care most about?
Bottom line results.
Right? So if I give feedback to an eagle, it might be something like, I want to thank you for what you did on that project. Not only did you make a difference for the team, but we increased this, decreased that, we met our goal, nicely done.
Awesome.
right?
Done.
Feel the difference?
Yeah.
Now, how different were those four?
Completely. All
Right.
four. Yeah.
This is what disc training does not typically do.
Mhm.
Disc training, we'd still be spending 20 minutes on the history and we'd be in the letter D.
Jeez.
Right. And already what we're doing is rewiring an entire new skill set for you.
Right.
Because now the next time you give feedback, I will bet you it triggers.
Sure.
The next time you're delegating work, I will bet you it triggers.
Right.
I mean, imagine you're a salesperson and you're communicating to somebody working with a sales team, right? I mean, and the salesperson walks into a customer and they are an eagle,
Mhm.
you know, and what are they thinking? When they walk in, on their way in, what are they thinking about what's going to happen that day?
The salesperson?
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to make a sale.
I'm closing today
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Of course.
I don't even need an hour.
Right.
And so they walk in and they are like, I am ready.
Yep.
And then they walk in and they're met with this. They're met with, hi, how are you? Welcome. Did you find us okay? Would you like
Yeah.
some coffee or tea or water? Here, let me take you, let me walk you around.
Yeah.
Tell me about yourself. Yeah. And of course, what style is that?
Obviously a dove.
Right.
Yeah.
but that eagle's coming in for the kill.
For the kill. Uh-oh. I see a
Right.
problem.
So what we're doing is we might take that communication skill set and really rewire people for how to apply it. Remember I said, it's not just about self-awareness. It's about application. This is application.
Right.
And when everyone goes through this, you start to see cultural change because now everybody has a language that they're using. So should we do
Very cool. Let's do one more. Sure.
one last one? How about
Yeah.
this one? This one we'll do something a little different with. How about this? How about I'll show you how we can make the circle even bigger. You know, in the training, we're not going to do this today. I'm not going to get into how do you use this for team dynamics, but you can really make this not just how do you communicate one-on-one, but how do you communicate to a large group. Let's
Right.
face it, you're not always talking to one person. Sometimes you're in a meeting. Sometimes you're talking to your department or
Sure.
the whole organization. So let's use communicating change. So how about this? I'm the manager and I'm going to be announcing change to a large group of people, my whole department.
Mhm.
And how about new system? We got this big new system coming in. So once again, whose style am I most likely to communicate in?
Your own. Right?
Absolutely. I'm a parrot. So it's going to be amazing.
So it's going to be amazing, right?
Yes. Maybe I won't give you a lot of detail, but trust me, it's going to be
High
amazing.
energy though. Right.
So watch what I do instead. I'm going to show you how to apply the 4 styles to communicate to a large group. And think about the many applications for this.
Okay.
A salesperson, a manager, a team member. So I say, all right, and see if you can, as you're tuning in, see if you can figure out what I'm doing here. So I say, all right, bottom line, we're implementing a new system. Here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. Here's our goal. Now, I got to tell you something. This new system is better. It is faster. It is easier than any system we have ever had. It is going to put us so beyond our competition. I cannot even wait to tell you about it. I'm so excited. Now, look, I know it's new and I know it's different. We're going to take our time. We're going to keep you informed. And look, I can tell you, there may be some rough patches along the way, but we're going to be there for you. We're going to be listening to you. We're going to be finding out what's going on. We're going to smooth it out. And I can tell you this, when this system is in place, it's going to be so much better for us and for our customers. So let me walk you through step by step and show you exactly what we are doing and why.
Wow.
Right now, you probably can guess. Now, now you can guess, of course, what I did.
You hit them all.
I hit them all
Yeah.
because I now know how to communicate with style and I know how I've wired myself for the 4 styles. So imagine I start off with which style, of course, do I begin with?
Yeah, that was Eagle first. Yeah.
Right. And you can probably guess why. Why Eagle?
I'm going to say short attention span.
Bingo, right? Yeah. Parrots are the next, we come right on the heels of the
Right.
Eagles.
Same reason.
Same thing. Doves and owls are very patient. They will hang in there.
All right.
But here's the thing. We only tend to listen and tune in when our hardwiring gets triggered. So in other words, when I'm in rah-rah parrot mode, do the eagles necessarily care or do
No.
the owls care?
No.
Probably not. But when the owls leave that room, what did they get based on what
They
I just
got
did?
all the data that they needed.
Absolutely. Parrots leave,
They leave energized.
they're pumped, right?
Sure.
How about eagles? What do they get right up front?
The goal and why we're doing it.
Sure. Doves?
They felt comforted. You
Yeah.
took some real time to say, I know that this is going to be hard and I'm here for you. So I
Right.
think they'll feel I think they got that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to think about the difference between what we just did with just 4 simple topics, and we did them in 30 seconds. We'd actually spend a good amount of time. There's activities, there's interaction. I kind of told it to you. We'd pull it from the group. We'd bring it to life in a very brain-friendly training way, interactive way. But just doing this in a webinar with just us having a conversation, you can see this is very different from the way traditional DISC training is taught, that it's not about the model. In fact, I'm not even talking about the model. What I'm really talking about are skills we use every day, and I'm going to enhance them. It's almost like you have a recipe that you make and you go, there's like something missing, and you add in that one extra component and it takes it to an entirely new level. This is that component.
Makes sense.
You're not changing what you're doing. We're going to take what you're doing to a whole new level, because you're now thinking about how you are impacting your people and how you can communicate and deal with others in a much better way.
That is fantastic. Wow. Completely different. This is truly reimagined, Merrick. It's fantastic. So you talked a little bit about the program. I know you've got several programs though.
Yeah.
Are there others you can tell us about?
Yeah, this is I think the second problem with DISC is that, and it's true with most personality style training programs, is because they are just that, a training program. Right? You should be using this. It should be embedded into your cultural DNA. It shouldn't just be, oh, DISC. Oh yeah, I did that. Like exercise. Right. Yeah, I did that. It's like diet. Oh, I dieted
Once. Right.
Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah. It's great. It doesn't really work like that. Look, we all know that learning has to be a process. Anything that's reinforced becomes a behavior that becomes wired. So you've got to have a variety of mechanisms to reinforce what you're doing. So first of all, it can't just be one and done. So what we've done at Take Flight Learning, we've actually built a whole ecosystem around the birds and the styles. So there's what we're talking about now is our Taking Flight with DISC session. It's our opening session. It lays a foundation for the 4 styles. But then let's say a couple months later, all of your leaders go through Chameleon leadership, anyone managing or supervising people, and we infuse the 4 styles into every aspect of leadership, from running effective meetings. If you run a meeting, I always say, look, if there's 9 people in that room, there's 3 people who always talk. It doesn't matter what the topic is.
Right.
There's 3 people who never talk. It doesn't matter what the topic is. And there's 3 people who talk if they've got something to say. Well, it doesn't mean those quieter, more introverted people don't have something to say.
Right.
Personality is playing out there. How do you run a meeting to get everyone engaged based on style? Right. We take topics like delegation and feedback and really explore them. But we go beyond that. We talk about creating an engaging team. How do you create a culture using the styles? As a leader, how do you do it?
Wow.
How do you deal with performance issues or toxic people or engagement issues? How do you deal with people? And it's really reframing for them how to use style from a leadership perspective. Same thing with conflict. How do you infuse the 4 styles into conflict? And created an entirely new model for conflict management. There's eagles who tend to engage in conflict when it's goal-based.
Sure.
When it's the details of the process, whatever.
That's right.
Doves are much more the interpersonal.
Sure.
Owls are more of the process.
Right.
Parrots tend to be more about the values. Like they tend to be very connected to, well, that's just wrong.
Right.
That's not us.
Right.
And so you look at that, we infused an entire model of the 4 birds into conflict management.
Wow.
Chameleon selling, there's so many elements to chameleon selling. How do you read your customer quickly from a style perspective, from reading their LinkedIn profile? Look, I will bet you that every salesperson has some standard letters that they send all the time. And guess whose style they're probably written in?
Their own.
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be an interesting exercise to rewrite those standard letters 4 times?
Wow.
Right? 1 for each of the styles, and then 1 that hits all 4 styles in case it goes to a group.
Great idea.
Right? Innovating ideas.
Yeah.
How do you embed the styles into innovation? Not just innovation, but also creativity. Creativity is internal. It's the land of ideas. Innovation is the land of implementation. It's actually putting those ideas into action. So each of the 4 styles has a different way that they are creative, and they contribute to creativity differently. Each of the 4 styles contributes to innovation differently. That's almost like going through a team building program with an entire day full of activities in which they experience innovation in action. And then we take a real world issue facing that team and we plug that issue into the new innovating ideas model and bring it to life using the 4 birds. It is amazing.
Wow.
So look, the point is, it can't just be a one and done. There has to be an ecosystem built around the styles to bring it to life in your organization.
Wow. So these programs really reinforce and provide specific skill sets.
Yeah. And you mentioned reinforcement, which reminds me of, so one of the interesting things we did, you see this, and this is what happens when you have a company that grew out of a team building company that is activity based, is that we understand the importance of exercises. We understand the importance of interaction. We also know that the data says to us that training that is reinforced within the first 3 weeks to a month after a training program is exponentially more likely to be implemented and have what's called transfer of learning from the training program to the job. So what did we do? We built 4 activities into the participant guide. So when you go through the session, each person gets a participant guide for that program. These are images, what you're looking at now of the participant guides. And there's 4 brand new activities at the back of each participant guide. So, and they're designed so that any one of you don't need a facilitator, a trained facilitator. They are so simple. They're 10 to 15 minute exercises that one of the team members or a manager or HR person or trainer could run. Anybody could run them. And what do they do? Imagine in your next 4 staff meetings doing a little 10-minute exercise. How much more would that reinforce the learning you've had? So what you're seeing is it's not just about the birds. It's not just about the way in which we run the training program, which is completely different. It's not just about all the activities. It's also about the fact that there's an ecosystem built around it, and there's activities that are take-home exercises that people can bring with them. In addition, you get the visual of the desktop bird, which keeps it just top of mind. It's front and center. Literally sitting on my desk next to my computer is my desktop bird, which is a parrot, and it keeps it alive. I mean, I have one company that I went back to. We ran a disc training program for them about 2.5 years ago. It was the first program that we led for them, and our Taking Flight with Disc session. There's a desktop bird on every desk, and the way they talk about the birds, it's literally as if they just did the training yesterday. It's still that alive.
Wow.
I've had people say things to me like it's almost like disc was in black and white, now it's in color. Like I've gone through so many disc training programs, but now I get it. Or we've done this before, but we weren't really using it. Those are the kinds of things we hear all the time, because now it's becoming embedded into the culture.
That's fantastic. We have a question that I thought we'd just go ahead and ask while we're on this slide, and tell us, how long are each of these programs? Are they multi-day, or
right? So
how does that work?
They vary. The Taking Flight with Disc program can either be a half or full day.
Okay.
And keep in mind, we can certify an in-house trainer to deliver any of these. Or we can do that. We can come in and deliver them as well.
Okay.
And look, disc training, about half of disc training is done as a half day, and about half is done as a full day. And so, is it great when you have a full day? Yeah. You can let it breathe more. You can do more exercises.
Sure.
But we get it. Look, when I started Team Builders Plus, people were sending leaders to full week-long leadership retreats.
Right.
Then it became 3-day leadership getaways, and now we're basically at a lunch and learn. Can you teach us the same amount of stuff as the week in
an hour? Right?
Yeah, sure, we could do that. So look, the Taking Flight with Disc is a half day or full day. Right. Chameleon leadership is a full day. Conflict management's about a 3/4 day. Chameleon selling and innovative ideas are full day sessions.
Okay.
But they really, I mean, the one thing we hear all the time is, oh my God, time went so fast.
Yeah.
Because they're so fun and funny.
Yeah.
And people really kind of laugh their way through.
Well, they were designed by a parrot, so I guess
what happens.
I guess that happens. Right? All right. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour here pretty soon, but why don't can you maybe wrap it up for us a little bit here with some takeaways, and,
sure.
and maybe we'll get into some Q&A.
Yeah, and we even have a nice little bonus kind of treat for everyone too, for hanging in there. We'll share that with you at the end. So just to pull it together, first of all, the styles must be easy to remember. If you can't remember them, you can't be using them. So any model that you have to memorize can be forgotten. It has to be intuitive. To me, if it's visual, it makes it easy and it's simple. The training itself, it has to be sticky and brain friendly. It has to be taught in a way in an interactive way that is so engaging, that wires people for the 4 styles. It can't be about the model. We have to stop talking about the DISC model, because this isn't just about the model. It's how we are teaching it so that it sticks. And then finally, the styles can't be a one and done training program. You must build an ecosystem around the styles. You've got to reinforce the training you deliver. You've got to send them back and let them it's like a booster shot. They get to keep learning. We have companies that once everyone goes through the Taking Flight with a DISC program, at a later date, everybody then goes through innovating ideas. At a later date, everybody goes through rediscovering conflict. And then they send their sales folks to Chameleon selling, their leaders to Chameleon leadership. But it really becomes a part of their culture. I can't tell you how many companies, the entire organization has been trained on the 4 birds. And their new hires, when they come in, it's just part of their new hire orientation.
Right.
You have to learn the birds. We're going to talk about it. So you better know what everybody's talking about.
Better know what these birds are all about. That's right.
We have some companies where we have these stickers where they're literally on everybody's name badge.
Yeah.
So you walk in and you're a prime. Look, you're not just one of them. I'm a parrot eagle, so I have say a 1-inch parrot and a 3/4-inch eagle sticker on my badge. So you get the primary and secondary.
Oh, cool.
Today was speed version, so we didn't talk about secondary stuff. But you're not just one. You are a combination of all. But the idea here is it's got to be easy, it's got to be brain friendly, got to be sticky, and you got to just build a system around it.
Fantastic. Well, we have a couple questions here. We have just a few minutes, and let's take the first one. It's the question is, can you tell us more about the certification process? What is that? What is that really?
So, in fact, we'll have a little special on the certification in a moment. We do classroom certification, which is a 2-day for the Taking Flight with DISC program, which is what you should go through first, and or you could do it virtually, which are 3-hour sessions. I'll tell you something that's kind of interesting. If there was one thing that I just got dead wrong, totally did not get right, I expected that when we began the certification process, and we've so many companies and organizations all over the world that have gone through the certification, that we would get people new to DISC. I figured people would say, yeah, I'm certified in DISC already, but and they're just going to do their thing. But we're going to get all the new folks who say, I want something that's fun and engaging and interactive. I don't want to have to create my own workbook. I don't want to have to create my own PowerPoint. I want the fact that there are desktop birds. I want the fact that there's a couple books with the birds about the styles that are going to reinforce it. And by the way, that's another reinforcer.
Sure.
I wrote the book the Chameleon is 22 fables. Not a single one of those fables, the lesson of those fables, are contained in the Taking Flight with DISC program.
Wow.
I wrote it so that it is additive, not repetitive. So people use it as a book club after the program. Another way they reinforce
It's a great idea.
And I expected we get all new folks. I would say the average length of time that somebody has been using DISC that goes through our certification, probably 10 to 12 years.
Wow. Yeah.
We get new folks. We have some people who've used it for 20 years and just say, I wasn't doing it. I wasn't really teaching it well, and I want to teach it at another level. And so, the certification isn't just for new folks. Even if you've been using it for a long time, I will guarantee you're going to go through it. And you're going to say, I've learned so much about how to lead engaging and sticky DISC training.
Terrific. Wow. And you mentioned that they're both in person and virtual?
Yeah, look, we get it. Is it great to be in person? Absolutely. It is great if you can do that. Look, some companies, one of our folks just the other day was in Oregon running a certification for all of the trainers from their company. So they brought all of their trainers from around the company and they brought them together. So sometimes we do that within one organization. It's cost effective. Sometimes you can do it virtually.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll have a little special for that in a moment, and as well as a little. And if you want to see the profile, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that too.
Oh, fantastic. One last question here, and then I think we'll wrap up in a little bit. But one last question was, if I don't have trainers at my organization, I heard you mention that you could come in and do it. How does that work?
Yeah, if you don't have trainers, then we deliver the training.
Okay.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get certified to deliver one program.
Right.
This is what we do. We travel around the country. We deliver the sessions for you. We come on site or local. You go to a conference room or a hotel nearby, and we deliver the training for you.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that's great. Thank you, Merrick. Go ahead and tell us about what we're going to get here.
Yeah. So for tuning in today, it's like a lovely parting gift, at the end of a game show, right? Just for being a part of this. So you get we're offering everybody a complimentary copy of the Taking Flight with Disc profile. And so I'm going to just show you very quickly what I think you're going to see as we walk through this profile is that this is not your typical disc profile. First of all, one thing you're going to be probably very sad that you're not going to see is clip art of happy or stock photography of happy people in an office setting pointing to a computer of a group of people that just look way happier than any 4 people ever have been pointing at a computer. It's fun, it's light, it's readable. It's one of the things people say all the time. We explain the 4 styles. You get a lot of information about the styles, about the birds. You get 3 graphs. We explain what the graphs are. And we have some good information about what do the graphs mean. This person is a parrot. You get a definition of the styles. You get an explanation, like a full-page narrative on what that style is all about. This is you. This is our friendly Ivy parrot feather. That's who this person is. I've met her. She's very fun, I can tell you. Life of the party. And it gives you a lot of customized information, what you bring to the organization, your strengths, your style tendencies, the environments that work for you, a style overview, what motivates you, what your needs are under stress, how you react in conflict, communication tips for communicating with you. And we have some standard pages, which are really nice too, like communicating with the eagle. How do you communicate with a parrot at work, in social settings, in training and learning settings, the dove, the owl. We have information around how do you be the chameleon and build rapport with each of the styles. Just a lot of information. We talk about the importance of accepting others, not judging others, how we need to use our strengths, not overuse them. And we talk about the 7 principles of taking flight. And there's an overall summary of your strengths, development areas, and an action plan. So the idea here is that, look, the report is simple. I have people all the time who say to me it's the nicest disc report that they've seen. And if you would like to see it, we are going to send you an email with a link. So go for it. Take it. You can check it out. We can walk you through it if you like.
Oh, that's great.
So the certification and you can tell us our standard price for our certification is
$1,795.
Yeah, so $1,795. We've never done this before. This is something that we're offering. We're kind of trying it out. We'll see if see what happens today. So basically, what we're saying is that, look, if you'd have to respond quickly, but we've got 2 certifications. They're starting to fill up. We've got a September certification and a November one. And if you sign up to do the virtual certifications, $495.
Wow.
So it would just take you to another level.
That's fantastic.
And when you do one of the agreements, look, if you just want to use the profiles, you can use our profiles. But once you go through the certification, then you would use our workbooks and so on. And that's kind of like part of the deal is you get to use the workbooks. But you won't believe what they look like. They're just absolutely beautiful. And so if you are interested in the $495 certification, it's September 25, 26, and 27. So it's 3 hours each of those days, September 25th through 27th, or again in November, the 12th, 13th, and 14th. So if you would like to learn more, we are here. We're here for you to answer your questions. We're here for you to just talk about what the styles are, tell you about what our programs are, talk to you about certification, walk you through the workbook, show you what that looks like. You can show you the PowerPoints. There's a facilitator kit that comes with it. It's a fully scripted facilitator kit. It is unlike any facilitator kit. I will tell you that it's probably the one line we hear from trainers all the time, that it's so readable. It's like it's written like how you would speak, not in trainer speak, like in participant guides, but literally here's what you say, here's what you do, here's what you ask, here's what they're going to answer, and here's how you use it. So if you're interested, give us a call, take the free profile. If you want to sign up for certification, we are there for you. We've got some other interesting webinars coming up. I think my next one is going to be disc and the brain. So if you're interested in how the styles play out in the brain and how do we run brain-friendly training beyond what we talked about today, we're going to talk about a lot more. That is coming up. We can send you. You'll see that coming up. pick up a copy of the book. The audio book is on Audible and iTunes. And since I do play guitar, I thought, it'd be kind of, I kind of wondered, does Audible and do iTunes actually look at the things you upload? Or what if you stuck a song at the end of the audiobook? Would they know? Would they actually answer it?
Sounds like you did.
No, they don't know. I'm just saying. So there's a kind of fun song about the birds at the end of the audiobook. But if you want to really learn more about the styles, pick up a copy of the Chameleon. You can get it on Amazon. And we're here for you to help you learn more. Go to takeflightlearning.com if you want to read about each of the programs, get more information.
Very good. Merrick, thank you so much. This has been very informative today. We appreciate all that you've taught us about your reinvention of what has always been a tried and true model, but my oh my, it has truly been reimagined. And we thank you for all of that information today. As Merrick said, all of you will be receiving an email from us with follow-up information, so please look for that and let us know if you have any questions. So thanks to all of you for tuning in today. I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar, What If Everything You Know About Disc Training Is Wrong? Have a great day.